All right, so we're back here on the Fantasy Flavor channel. We're just going to start talking about free agency, the madness that was, and let's start talking about some of the trades that went down during free agency. And I think maybe the biggest one was DeAndre Hopkins going into the Cardinals. What do we think about that?
By biggest one, you mean the dumbest one, right? Yeah, I mean, everyone was shocked, so was I. But yeah, this trade really helped. Some players like David Johnson suddenly is back from the dead, and Hopkins, I think it's pretty much, straight. I don't see him going up or down a lot. Um, as far as my thinking is concerned, I think Hopkins will get less targets, but maybe those targets will be much better, and he might get more touchdowns. So that's what I feel. And Drake gains massive value. I think he is easily a top RB2 for this year.
Yeah, what about David Johnson? What do you think about him? Is that somebody you're targeting in a trade?
No, I am trying to, like, depends. If you are win now, if you don't have a running back, maybe. But I'm selling him. I sold him for a late first myself, and I'm happy about it. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Oh, you got him for a late, or you sold him, and somebody gave you a late first for him.
111 in this year,
Oh,
2020 111.
yeah, I wouldn't pay that much. That was a steal for you.
Okay, great.
But
Yeah, I have a question about David Johnson for you guys. Maybe
Yeah,
Trenton can jump in here. What's kind of like a running back you think's like right next to, like, I know you don't have your rankings in front of you, but like a running back that's like right next to you in your rankings that you know what I mean? That's like on equal level of a David Johnson.
Ooh.
see, that's
Um,
hard to answer because he has such a high ceiling and such a low floor. So
yeah.
you could
No,
slot him in anywhere and it'd be understandable.
honestly, I don't think he has a low floor this year or even next year. I basically think that he's old. So in Dynasty, he cannot be there for more than 2 years. That's what I feel. But I think his floor is very high this year, and his ceiling is also massive.
I think his floor is actually kind of high too. Carlos Hyde got a ton of volume,
Yes.
and obviously, I think he's going to just take over that Hyde role with more upside in the receiving game. So overall, I guess I kind of David Johnson probably is in that RB2 range for me. Not or like sorry RB2, like low end RB2 or like high end RB3, if that makes sense. But just to kind of circle it back to DeAndre Hopkins, personally, I don't see it being much of a kind of like shift in like my rankings. It's kind of the same. He gets kind of a younger quarterback. I think Watson might be a better quarterback right now than Murray is throwing the ball, but I think both are going to be pretty good in the NFL. What do you kind of think about the trade for Hopkins and his fantasy value, Trenton? Trenton?
I'd say it's I think he has a worse quarterback, but he also has a better scheme. That air raid offense is going to be really nice for him. They'll be airing it out a lot, and he'll get a lot of those targets. So his volume should remain similar, if not maybe even go up, as crazy as it might seem. And so I'd still put him around the same area as I do now. So I think his value is still there, and it's a good value.
All right, I think that's really well said. Do we have any more things to say about DJ or DeAndre Hopkins before we move
Yeah, I
on?
just wanted to say that, as you said, a low end RB2. I think he's mid RB2 at least for this year. Again, we are talking dynasty here, so I'll not, buy him for a lot. But if I'm win now, I'm definitely interested in buying DJ. And the other thing is that Bill O'Brien, after taking so much flack for this trade, I'm pretty sure he would want to prove that this trade was good for them. So he's going to ride David Johnson this year.
Yeah, with D Hop gone too, I think there's going to be more targets available. So maybe we'll see Deshaun Watson pass to his running backs more because he replaced D-Hop with Randall Cobb. So
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien special. But moving on here, another big trade for wide receivers was Stefon Diggs going to the Buffalo Bills. And now he has Josh Allen as a quarterback. Trent, what are your thoughts on this? I know you're a big Josh Allen fan, so.
I think it's tough to say. He doesn't have to split the receiving workload anymore with Adam Thielen. He is going to be that clear top dog. And it'll really help Josh Allen because he hasn't had any elite weapons to throw to, which Diggs is, no matter how you spin it, Diggs has elite talent. And so I think it'll help Josh Allen, but honestly, I don't know. I think that Bills' offense is more of a ground-based offense. They try to run it a lot, so that's going to be a change. I mean, sure, in Minnesota with Dalvin Cook, they like to run a lot too, but they also were a really, really strong passing team. It remains to be seen if Josh Allen and the Bills can cover that up, but I think as of right now, it's similar to what I said for DeAndre Hopkins. I'd keep him around the same area as I would normally be drafting him.
Quick question here for you guys. I'm curious if you know the answer. Which team passed more in 2019? Was it the Buffalo Bills or the Minnesota Vikings?
I think Vikings.
How about you, Trenton?
Hold on.
You can't look it up. It's a question.
Oh, it's so close. I literally have to click this link.
Bruh.
I'll go with the Vikings, but I think it'll be closer than people think.
Bills.
It is very close.
The Bills threw more than the Vikings last season, so it was by 3 spots, I believe. The Bills were the 21st ranked passing team in total attempts, and the Vikings were 24th. So, maybe it'll be more volume there. We definitely said that, but not only that, the offense, at least last season, was more pass heavy than the Minnesota. But I do think the question here comes with Josh Allen and his 33rd ranked completion percentage after adjusted completion percentage, which kind of like disregards like throwaways and stuff and drops. He's not accurate. Kirk Cousins is a lot more accurate. Kirk Cousins is actually pretty solid throwing. His problem is like primetime games, which we don't really care about for fantasy, really. In that kind of regard, winning primetime games, like who cares? So it's just like overall, I think there's going to be more volume, but Josh Allen needs to improve as a passer because he isn't good. There's like a montage of him like overthrowing his receivers by like 30 yards. I'm like, what an arm, but also that's bad. You shouldn't be overthrowing your receivers by that much. So what do you think about it all, Sinan?
Yeah, I totally agree that I feel it's a worse situation than last year. First thing, the offensive philosophy is the same. Then he gets a worse quarterback. And the third thing is that he's changing teams. Changing teams and learning the playbook takes a little bit of time. So his production from last year will certainly go down, but he's still young. So over the years, maybe it's better.
Yeah, he's 26.
But
so definitely a younger
yeah,
receiver.
I mean, if I want Diggs, I would wait a year and then buy him. Or maybe mid-season, I want to buy him. Because his production is going to drop off a lot initially. That's my thought.
As a franchise, like if I were running a team, I would like where it is right now with Diggs with Josh Allen as compared to what he was last year, just because you have that younger quarterback that's going to grow with him. He didn't have that in Kirk Cousins. But at the same time, like you mentioned, it is a downgrade. Kirk Cousins, no matter how much flack he gets, he was a better quarterback than Josh Allen. So if Josh Allen can improve, then Diggs is still right there. But I think still, even with all that being said, his value remains the same for me just because he's going from that wide receiver A, wide receiver 1B offense to he's the clear-cut number one option.
That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move on here to we're gonna do a little bit of superflex, talk at the end with Nick Foles. But I kind of wanted to talk about Hayden Hurst here. He was traded to the Falcons for a hefty second round pick kind of shocked me. But do you think he's going to take over that Austin Hooper role, or is he just the next bust?
I think he will
That's-
take over the Austin Hooper's role, but he will not do that well. I think it's like somewhere in the middle. He's not a bust at all. I think he's fine. He's a fine player.
Coming out of college, he was a first round draft pick, so he's a talented tight end. But at the same time, he was in the offense with the Ravens that had other tight ends, and all the tight ends were about the same level, and up until Mark Andrews broke out. Going to Atlanta, he doesn't have much competition, so I think he will get that volume more. He will get more opportunities if he makes the most of it, which I think he can. He has the talent to. Then he could be that Austin Hooper, but like Sanatan said, I think he will be like not quite that level, but he will be much better than he was in in Baltimore.
I think he's more athletic than Hooper. So if he gets Hooper's volume, which is the only thing that I doubt, if he gets Hooper's volume, I don't think he will produce less than Hooper, at least.
Yeah, I think he could give you like 75% of like what Hooper was. Because I expect Ridley to get targets more. Ridley's one of my favorite buys this offseason. So it's just kind of like, if you're giving me 75% of what Austin Hooper did this year, that's actually still pretty fantasy relevant. So overall, I kind of like Hayden Hurst as a buy. I just think now people are going to be charging you a little bit too much. So
Exactly. I agree with you. I am also buying him if I can.
all
Be a
right.
mid third, hopefully.
Yeah, I feel like that's a. I feel like they'd want a second though. It's going to be interesting
Yeah.
to see how he's valued this offseason. But
No, who you can buy on a second? OJ Howard. So I wouldn't buy Hurst. I would rather buy OJ Howard.
yeah, stay tuned to our
So
YouTube channel and podcast if you want to hear about what he has to think about OJ Howard and TB12. But finally, Superflex viewers, you've stayed with us long enough. Thank you. Nick Foles going to the Bears. Trenton, let's start off with you. What do you think about this signing? Is he the long-term answer? Is this just a bad move? Is it going to be kind of meh like Derek Carr? What are your thoughts?
At college, one of my very close friends was a huge Bears fan, so we'd watch Bears games all the time. And he, as being the big Bears fan he was, I would always hear him complain about how horrible Mitchell Trubisky was. So I think Nick Foles is a better quarterback, and that offense should do much better. He does have Allen Robinson, so Allen Robinson's value will definitely go up as compared to what it was with Trubisky. But simultaneously, he isn't the long-term answer. He is like he was with Jacksonville. He is that stopgap quarterback. Up until Minshew took over, he was just there to fill in and be a mentor. Does once more in Chicago until they get a new quarterback.
Yeah, I don't really like Nick Foles too much. I just think he's kind of overrated, honestly, as like a player, and I kind of like view him as like Derek Carr, like light, like even worse. I just not really someone who interests me. I think it's kind of a bad move. In real life and fantasy. I mean, fantasy, he definitely has some value. I try to sell him personally in Superflex for like anything that's fair.
Dude, I mean, I don't think it's a bad move in real life. In fantasy, of course, it doesn't matter, honestly. But in real life, that's what Bears need. They need a Derek Carr. They have a good defense, and they don't want their quarterback to lose the game for them. And Foles has progressions. No, he will see his first progression, then the second, and then the third, and then throw. Trubisky just looks at one person, and if he doesn't find them open, he starts running. And that's why I feel that more than Allen Robinson's value increase, I think it's much better for Miller, because
Anthony
Robinson
Miller.
got a lot of Anthony Miller, because Robinson got a lot of targets from Trubisky, because that was his first read. And I feel his targets will go down a little bit, but the targets will be better. And Miller will get a lot of targets now. I think Miller is the winner here, and the Titans, whoever is the Titan. I
Jimmy
don't know. They have
Graham.
like, we have 5 Titans. All of them are dead.
There's 8 tight ends on the Chicago roster.
Wow.
So
Jimmy,
that's what I think about.
yeah, I get it. I think there are better quarterback options to like Cam Newton. I'd even prefer Andy Dalton in his contract. So even though they restructured Foles' contract, I don't know. It's whatever. We're not really here to talk about real life football. That's kind of all I have to say about all these players. How about you guys?
That's it. I mean, yeah, let's
Nothing
wrap
to
it up,
add.
I think.
All right, thank you guys so much for listening. Have a nice rest of your day.